Hey movie junkies and twin flicks lovers. Hey movie junkies and physical media. Hey movie junkies, welcome back to physical media. Hey movie junkies, welcome back to Twin Flicks, where we always here celebrate the magic of movies and most importantly, physical media with you. Today, as you can tell by the subject line of this video, we are talking about Shout Factory's 4K UHD presentation of Night of the Comet. Now, Shout Factory did release the Blu-ray. Now, back in 2013, Shout Factory did release a Blu-ray edition sourced from a 2K scan master, which did have its issues, but at the time was the best looking way we could watch Night of the Comet, especially when you compare it to previous home media releases that just weren't good at all. This pretty much got the job done back in 2013. With this 4K UHD, Shout Factory has gone back to the drawing board, giving Night of the Comet a new 2023 4K restoration from the original 35mm negative, forming a native 4K DI with HDR10 and Dolby Vision grading, and it also maintains the original theatrical aspect ratio of 1:8:5:1, when the previous Blu-ray release from Shout Factory was framed wrong at 1:7:8:1. Alright, so let's dive in and see how this 4K stacks up and if it's worth upgrading from your Blu-ray. The movie looks pretty rough, starting with the production logos and into the optically printed opening titles and into the opening scene in the theater. It just all looks very soft. But then after the theater scene is when the quality improves significantly. Almost a night and day difference, especially when you compare it to the Blu-ray. Now, doing my research on the movie, I found out, for whatever reason, this has always been the case with every home media release, which tells me this is all inherited from the camera negative. It's baked in and not at all because of a bad transfer. It's just something that just can't be helped. But as I said, after the opening theater scene, the 4K quickly takes off and absolutely shines. The image looks fresher, cleaner, and more natural looking than the Blu-ray. The Blu-ray also suffered from banding issues throughout the presentation, which has always been a problem, but it's been taken care of with this 4K. The colors benefit the most from this upgrade. The palette leans heavily towards reds and oranges, especially with the orange dusty comet burnt sky that's washed over the city, looking deeper and much more appropriate than it did on the Blu-ray, where you just did not get that sense of quality. The HDR grading only enhances what's already there by opening up the color gamut wider, giving more shades and tones to the colors, while also staying restrained, never looking artificially boosted or too hot. The 4K exudes natural colors that really brings the retro neon 80s colors back to life. We have candy, cherry reds, and crimson reds that looks deeper and active. I mean, just look at the red on Kelly Mahoney's cheerleader outfit and contrast that with the blue. It just looks outstanding. Or inside the house when Hector returns home. The reds look beautiful glowing through the windows and his silhouette, and also the crimson red shirt that he wears. It all just looks much more appropriate now and active than the Blu-ray did, that looked more muted. Yellows are energetic and blues look lively and natural, and greens are lush. And other colors such as purples and pinks, the 80s neon colors, even browns and grays are all impressively well balanced here. The entire color palette just ignites the screen with lifelike naturalistic pop while still maintaining that low budget natural 80s look. Saturation also helps in this department, used very, very slightly, given just enough to breathe life back into the image. The contrast is also well balanced, showcasing the cinematography, putting contrast on the lower end, giving the movie a truer gloomy atmosphere, giving a truer sense of desolation and the tone of the movie, but without it looking too dreary or depressing. Skin tones are also handled much better here, looking naturally warm, while on the Blu-ray, skin tones fluctuated from pasty to hot. Now, one big area where the movie struggled on the Blu-ray is with the black levels. I noticed a lot of bright blacks or slightly grayish blacks and pretty weak shadow points as well. Now with this 4K upgrade, we have black levels the way they're supposed to look and rendered very accurately with deep solid blacks and rich penetrating shadows. that never takes away from any background information in the image. Even during the darkest scenes or corners of the frame, it also draws out more colors in the blacks. And this is very helpful during low lit and definitely night scenes that look more authentic now. Now let's dig into the detail levels. And this 4K with a 2160p resolution has finer lines now, giving way to much sharper image with details and texturals, or at least as sharp as the 80s lenses could provide. Because I'm not saying it's razor sharp. I did notice some subtle softness here and there. Again, this is just inherited, baked into the negative. A nice compliment is with the costumes. The costume design looks fantastic. We can now visibly see stitching or even fuzz on sweaters and seams. Facial close-ups are also sharper, revealing makeup, complexions. All the abandoned, torn up buildings and desolated city streets, the damage is all there. Depth is another nice improvement here, along with better three-dimensionality, giving a nice sense of presence and spaciousness throughout, creating a more lifelike image. The bitrate ranges from 70, peaking around 85, 86. And all that 35mm film grain is nicely intact here, covering the image with a very nice thin layer of grain, giving us a rich filmic appearance that's just beautiful. Now, while I wouldn't say this 4K is going to knock your socks off, it's still definitely a great looking UHD upgrade, especially when compared to the previous Blu-ray. It's never looked better on home media. Alright, now let's dig into the audio presentation of this 4K, and Shout Factory has just ported over the same lossless stereo and lossless DTS 5.1 tracks as on the previous release Blu-ray, and it's still a solid 5.1 mix. Now, I did notice the stereo track does exhibit a great deal more of warmth and fidelity to it. That's probably a little bit more appropriate to the film than the 5.1 track does. The stereo sound field is widened with music and discrete effects. Also, I noticed the mid-range is slightly more dynamic and detailed than the 5.1 mix. So when comparing the two tracks, I have to say, go with the stereo track. It sounds more authentic and appropriate to the movie. And in the end, it's just going to come down to personal preference of which track you want to listen to. Alright, so my score for Shout Factory's 4K UHD presentation of Night of the Comet, I'm giving the video quality a 4.5 out of a 5 and the audio a 4 out of a 5. Alright, now I want to hand this video over to you. When you look at the differences here between the two formats, Shout Factory's 2013 Blu-ray against Shout Factory's new 4K UHD presentation, which do you think looks better? Head over to the comment section and let me know. As always, thanks so much for hanging out with me and discussing Night of the Comet and comparing it to the previous release Blu-ray. As always, guys, keep physical media alive, and we'll see you next time.